In this video, we're going to focus on just some Rhino basics that allow you to use the Kiln Builder uh, Rhino file. So I've got Rhino open. I'm still using Rhino 7, but for our purposes, it should be fine. And I'm going to open here, I've called it Anagama. Um, it's my most recent version of the file. Um, If for some reason your background colors look different and you want to change them, under options, you can go to appearance, colors. The one color that I think matters is I like having that background color set to like a pretty dark gray, but not quite black. Um, so here you'll see four windows: a top view or plan view, a view from the front, which is one side, that's this side, a view from the right, and a perspective view. Um, and the right mouse button in the perspective view um, sort of swivels around like that. If you hold down Shift in the perspective view, um, it it sort of pans. Um, in any of the 2D views, like the top view, the right mouse button will pan, the scroll wheel will zoom. Um, the other thing that is really useful, so instead of using all of these icons, I just type my commands. If you type zoom and then hit E, up here it shows you all the options when you type the command. E for extents. It'll sort of, and you can do that in any window. So you can see if I click on the perspective window and type Z for zoom and E for extents, or you can type out zoom, right? Um, the other thing you can do, if I click to select and type Z for zoom and S for selected, it'll just zoom to what's selected. So I'm going to hit Z, E, zoom extents again. Um, so the basic commands that I think you need to know to sort of work with this are essentially just move, copy, rotate. And that's about it. Um, so let's go over what each of them does. Actually, before I do that, the other thing to look at over here is the layers palette and the properties palette. These will be more important later, um, but for now, I think it's just understand that every object sits on a layer, which is useful because like right now, all this stuff is on the layer that I call brick palette. So if I turn those off, right, it hides it. Um, and that's what the little light bulb does. If I click the lock button, it means that you can't select the things on that layer anymore or manipulate them, unlock it. Now you can again. Um, Another thing that's super important is if you left click, um, you can select things. You can see the yellow highlighted. Now this is really important. If you go from right to left, anything you touch will select. But if you go from right to left, you have to, anything that gets sort of like completely inside that box will be selected. And that's super useful. And you'll see that later. So just see the difference here, right? If I go right to left, because I want to select just that big green 9 by 9 by 5, right? Whereas if I go, or sorry, that was left to right. If I go right to left, anything I touch is going to select all of those things. Um, so these four windows, they're all just windows onto the same set of objects, right? They're four different views. Um, so uh, let's go ahead. Let's say we're going to use the 2.5-inch bricks, and I've set up these sort of bricks as the basic building blocks that you can use. You can just move and copy them. And so here you have essentially a full brick and a half brick. in 9 by 4.5 by 2.5 and 9 by 4.5 by 3. And then the red ones, so these are all the hard brick, and these are all the soft brick, the insulating fire brick. And then I have some sort of concrete base set up in a kind of modular format. Um, and the idea is you can just pick these things and you can copy and I type copy. And then if I just click anywhere and I move the mouse down and then I hit the space bar to end it, right? Um, now I've got like a copy of that brick, that hard brick. And the thing that's important about that workflow, right? I'm going to type copy again. If I sort of actually let me do it with this unselected. If I don't have anything selected and I type copy, it says select objects to copy, and I can select that. And then it says point to copy from, right? And I can click and I can, you see how it's kind of snapping, like you get that little white dot. Um, and then now it's snapping to projected middle, right? If I keep going, right? If I don't hit just hit the scroll wheel to zoom. If I don't hit the space bar, right, I can keep copying as much as I want. Um, and if I go, let's see, copy, oops, copy, and I select these objects, press the space bar. It says enter. You can also press the space bar, right? And then I click, and it snaps to that corner, and I click, right? So that's how easy it is to start to set up, um, to start to, you know, copy bricks. So here's the other thing. I could also, if I have something selected and I type copy, right, then it just starts from point to copy from, right? Click here, click again, hit the space bar, which brings us to our next command, rotate. So if, again, if I just type rotate, it asks me to select something to rotate. I'll select that. Then it asks for center of rotation. So I'll click in that corner. And then um, it will, all right, I sort of pick a first reference point. So I move to the right, and then now I'm moving my mouse up, and I click again. Now you'll see that every time, I sort of move something. Oops, that's not what I meant to do. Move, right? Every time I move something, it's sort of like locking to horizontal or vertical. That's a setting. And if you hit F8, it'll toggle that setting, right? So I hit F8, you can see it says ortho is off. So now I can sort of move anywhere. If I hit F8 again, now ortho is back on. For your purposes, given that we're working with brick, you probably want to always have ortho on. So let's move, pick that thing, right? If I'm snapping, right, then it won't matter if ortho's on or not. So if I say copy, then hit spacebar. So what snapping means is it's a way of, I don't have a better word than snapping, but it allows you to sort of kind of elastically, like if you get close to the end of something or the middle of something or whatever, to sort of grab precisely the corner. And you'll see like down here, right, are are the snap settings. And the ones that you want to just make sure are checked, you want end, middle, intersection, and project checked, and the rest of them unchecked, and that'll do just fine. So, right, if I say copy here, right, now it's projecting to an end. Now it's projecting to a middle. Um, and there it might be an end or an intersection, right? An intersection means it's like it's snapping to where like two things meet. And that's really useful because what it means is that when you move that brick, is that it's going to move to like right exactly, where you want it to be. Whereas let's say if I move this, right? So here's another trick, right? If I select it and I say move, I could click somewhere off to the side and then, you know, move it like that, right? And now you can see these two bricks are intersecting. So if I say move again, right, now I'm snapping to its corner, and now I'm snapping to that intersection or that endpoint there, right? Super useful, and that's what's really important about the snaps. Um, So, right, if you wanted to, then I don't know. Ah, here's the other thing that's important. Um, the other important thing about snapping, and this is a little bit weird, is this idea of projecting. So, so projecting means that, um, like, when you're in a top view and I'm going to hit copy, right? And if I select that corner and I snap to anything here, if you look down in the front view when it's moving around, right? See how it never moves vertically? It's always, even though it's snapping to all those points, it's only sort of snapping in the top-down view. It's not snapping, it's not changing where that block is moving um, in you know, in its elevation. Like, whereas, for example, if I go to a right view, right, and I hit move, right, I can move it here, right, and I can move it up, I can snap to that thing, right, that's this uh, block, right, I can move it up, right, but you can see, right, if you look in the top view, you know, it's it's not moving sort of it's not moving in the top view, it's only moving in the right view, right? Whereas if I unclick this project and I say copy, um, and then I snap here, right? You can see that now, because it was snapping to the corner of this thing, right? It's moved in the top view. Um, Sometimes that's useful, but I like to have project always checked so that when I'm moving something in, a top view, it's never moving up or down. Or if I'm moving it up or down in a right view or a front view and I'm trying to snap, it's never moving, in plan, or it's never moving in the top view. I realize this is a little bit confusing, but I think if you play with it, um, you'll be able to sort of intuitively understand what it's doing. Um, the last thing is there are times when maybe you want to disable a snap, and that's what disable does. So if I copy, see, you can see now it's not snapping, and I can't, if I turn off the ortho, right, it won't snap to anything. Whereas if I come back down and I unclick disable, you can see my snap is back on. I'm going to hit escape. Escape always cancels your command, right? So, right, this is basically the way that you can start to work, right? So if you wanted to start to build on top of this, you could come, let's use the insulating brick, uh, copy. Right, you can see those are now overlapping. But if I go into a right view, I can move it up. Right, and you can see here it is. Now, some people prefer to work in a 3D view. You could do that too. You could say copy. You could snap. You could do it this way if you want. Rotate. Turn my ortho back on. Go. Oops. Let's try that again. Rotate. My center of rotation. I'm going to click there. Click there. There we go. I could come here and type M for move. Right. If you wanted to copy that up, I'm going to go into my right view. So here's where it's useful to snapping to that midpoint. Copy. Right. Zoom selected. And there we go. Right. And that's basically all there is to it. The very basics of move, copy, rotate. You got your snaps. Um, if you mess up and you want to delete something, you can just select it and hit the delete key. Um, and that is most of what you need to basically be able to use this file to plan everything out uh, in Rhino. In the next videos, we'll look at a little bit more, getting a little bit more control and using the layers to make sure that it's sort of as easy as possible to turn things on and off and see the different courses of brick.